So, so there's a lot
Omar.
of lots of, I've never been so interested in language. I used to, brother, I used to be scared, to be frank with you. Language,
Hmm.
oh, it's not my domain. I'm an engineer,
Hmm.
leave that
Hmm.
aside. But I found out that language makes me, reprograms me to be accurate in everything that I do. You see, the more we classify, the more we classify, the better we can live. The more we classify, the better we can live.
Yeah.
Language, the Arabic had been made horrible for non-Arabs to learn it. How? I'll tell you the secret if you don't know. Because they don't care about what you're doing. They never taught us this. They never, leave aside what you're doing. They never told us the meaning of words, brother. I grew up in an Arab country.
Hmm.
They never told us the meaning of
I've heard
words.
that from several Arabs. Yeah, from several
You,
people.
you know what?
From yeah.
They killed us with what they refer to as grammar, and a grammar is a joke.
Yes, it is.
It's an absolute joke. I can
Yes.
demonstrate that.
Do you know what the
The
word
grammar
grammar
of,
means in English?
please,
It means sorcery.
amazing.
Grammar and
I love that.
glamour mean witchcraft and sorcery. Look it up in the dictionary. Online
You
etymology dictionary.
amazing, brother. Look, I'll tell you something very interesting. Very, very, very short, quick
Take your
story.
time. Yeah.
I was a good student in high school. Okay,
Hmm.
I don't want to, brag about my account, but I was a good student. Palestinians, they have to work hard. They have no land. Their salvation is education and so
Yeah.
forth. I did so well in all subjects, so well, except one subject. It couldn't get to my head. Guess
Hmm.
what? Grammar, Arabic
Yeah.
grammar.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just, because you know why?
Hmm.
Later,
Hmm.
later, I was so relieved
Yeah.
when a very excellent scholar wrote a book and he said exactly what I said, what I just told you. He said, because there's no logic to it.
Right.
Got it?
Yeah. It's
You
invented.
see, because you cannot be, if you're good in math, which I was good in math, it's based on logic.
Hmm.
Why I couldn't figure out grammar? I couldn't. It just couldn't. I was so so this is something that discourages many people because I can show you on my bookshelves here, there's this many books that are used to teach uh, English, Arabic as a second language. And a lot of them is grammar that, if you look at them, you get scared. I mean, if you don't get scared, come on, you're not
Yeah.
a human.
Let me ask you a
Okay.
question.
All
Let me
right.
ask you a question.
So
What's the
please.
word? What's the word for grammar in Arabic?
Aha, excellent. Ask many Arabs and they will give you different answers. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Look, there are two words that are conflated with each other.
Yeah.
There's qawaid
Go ahead.
and
Yeah.
there's nahu.
Yeah.
Qawaid
Hmm.
and nahu.
No.
And
Yeah.
people use the two to indicate grammar.
Hmm.
But qawaid means what? Qawaid, nothing wrong. Qawaid means bases,
Yes.
foundations,
Yes. Yes. Well, let me add
right?
now, let me just
Nahu,
add. Let me add this. Let me add this about the quiet. What does Iblis say, so to speak, in the Quran when he supposedly lets Allah know where he's going to be laying in the cut, waiting to capture the human? لَأَقْعُدَنَّ, from that same root, قَعَدَ,
qawaid.
right? قواعد. So that makes me believe that Iblis's scheme is in the grammar.
Amazing. Wow, brother, you're up to something here. You're up to something, man.
It's Allah's gift. It's Allah's gift. It's time. And But just going back to the idea of the grammar, when I looked that word up in the online etymology dictionary and I saw that it meant witchcraft and sorcery, and that in grade school, what do they begin you with? Spelling. It means spell
Amazing.
casting. So the spell casting
Amazing.
on the intellects of the public is done through language. Like you said, language was intended to evolve. See, everything is under the evolutionary principle, as I call it, because everything is under Rab, I call it the Rab principle. And a part of what a Rab is not just the creator and the nourisher, but also the one who evolves. What is it evolving? Al-Alameen, Rabbil Alameen. See? So that Alameen is also inclusive of new information. Ilma, Alameen, Ilma. So Allah is evolving knowledge. That's why we're able to have this kind of conversation. 50 years ago, this would have been impossible. You wouldn't have even thought to talk to me. I wouldn't have been looking for you. But look at what has happened in the last 50 years for us to now come together. Not you here, me here, not me here, you here, but right here. Meeting of the minds, as I call it with Dr. Omar Zaid, meeting of the minds.
Brother Bilal, amazing, mashallah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Brother, a lot of the confusion that when it comes to interpreting the Mus'haf is because of grammar. Can you believe it?
I do.
Is because of
Absolutely. That's
grammar.
where the spells are being cast.
And
yeah.
Brother, I started, I did not do grammar beyond high school. Okay. But when I was liberated and I got the strength, the courage, the confidence to think, I started questioning very simple things, very, very simple things. So I was in a masjid in Palestine, occupied Palestinian areas. And I heard the Imam saying something. And then he said, Allah uses it in this way because the Quran is an exception. Okay. Then that stuck in my mind. The language of the Quran is an exception. Then later I found out that there's tons of exceptions. What, what in the world is a system based on exceptions?
And how can you call it a clear book?
And how you can. So I realized later that there were multiple schools of grammar, multiple schools. The grammarians, whatever that word, they were fighting with each other which grammar should prevail.
Yes.
Okay. So then they developed a system of grammar. Again, we have no idea whether the state was involved with it, whether mischievous people were part of it. We don't know. What we know is the following, is that they juxtaposed their system on the Mus'haf. Aha, but they didn't do a good job. That's why later on there were so many exceptions popping up. Exceptions.
Sibawayh and other systems.
And they put themselves in a very ugly corner because lots of attacks by Arabs, non-Muslim Arabs, Muslim haters call it whatever, is that they say, look, the Quran is violating the language. Hence violating the language structure, hence it cannot be from a god, but it's violating man-made language. You see, and those who developed that language didn't go to the Quran to study what the language is all about. Now look, the inconsistencies are not within the Mus'haf. No one can prove that. The inconsistencies are between the Mus'haf and their grammar.
That's correct.
You see,
I always tell people, if you call yourself following the Sunnah, then you should be bright like the sun, because that's where they get the English word sun from, Sunnah. See, a lot of people don't know that 16th century astronomer Joseph Bayer, not Joseph, I forget his first name, but he came up with the term Sunnah, and he said he coined it after the term Sunnah from the Quran. So I'm saying, and he wasn't Muslim.
Wow.
He wasn't a Muslim, 16th century astronomer, because he was looking to replace the Latin word for the sun called sol at that time, S-O-L. And he was looking at Greek words, and he said, I'm not satisfied with Greek words and these other words. He said, I'm going to choose the word sunnah, because that word has to do with the brightening up of something. See, just like when we say we sanitized something, we cleaned it up, and the sun sanitizes the air, right? So we don't know. I think one of the scholars, I think I heard you mention once was he's on the academia.edu site, and I know his last name is Jassem, Jassem.
Oh, yes, yes,
You know
yes,
what? Yeah, I
yes.
heard you mention him one time. Yeah, that's my man.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I love his work. See, so if people are looking for corroboration in terms of English words that derive from Arabic roots and Arabic words and terms, that's they need to see him. That's the person that they need to research for sure.
Have you ever read any of his papers?
Yeah, yeah, I have many of them.
You know, it's amazing. I was going to mention that to you, but I'm glad that a friend of mine introduced him to me. I wanted to visit him personally. I didn't have a chance. I was in Saudi Arabia. Zaidan Jassem.
Zaidan Jassem, yes. Jassem, yes.
And I looked into his, I mean, he claims or he shows that most of English words come from Arabic.
That's right. And proves it, as far as I'm
And
concerned.
proves it.
Yeah.
And he is in a no-name university. That's why he's not getting any attention. You know how he traces English, Old English, Greek, whatever, Latin, and then
so many languages.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he goes into the other Semitic languages. You know, he goes into the Hebrew, into the Syriac, into the, he goes deep, and he shows the correspondence between these letters and these sounds. You know, I think he would.
May I ask you, how did you come across him? I'm just curious.
Allah sent him to me.
So
up Hebrew, Hebrew is the oldest language. Arabic comes from Hebrew, and they that kind of thing. And that's fine if they want to believe that. That's fine, And there's some serious connections in some of what they're saying as far as the history of the languages. As far as I'm concerned, I see some of what they're saying as being valid, but not in the way that they present it. Like the mother of all languages, is Hebrew, Proto-Hebrew, or, but they won't tell people in that same breath that there was a point when Hebrew became a dead language. And it was revived by Muslim scholars. Amazing. That's how I know that every Arabic letter has a meaning. Remember, I told you I was born into the Jewish faith. So I learned early on that every Hebrew letter had a meaning. So
brother,
if the Hebrew letters, if the Hebrew letter B is Beth, and Beth means house in Hebrew, Bethlehem, Beth Israel, house of it, then how come the Arabic letter B is only Ba, the sound of the sheep? How come it's not Bait? So in my book, Nunetics, I say it's Bait. And it makes much more sense when you look at a word for father as Aleph Ba or Aleph Bait, and Aleph means strong and Bait means house. The strong one in the house is the father. Makes sense. But if you don't know that Ba means Bait, then you won't make sense of the word as a collection of letters that lead to a particular word or sentence. That's really what each root word is. The 3-letter root words are actually sentences. They're not just words. I love humans.
We care.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
We want a better world for all.
Thank you. And we'll understand that once we understand what the word Muslim actually means. And I got this hint again from Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. And I think he was speaking to the organization called CARE. I know he might have been speaking to ICNA or ISNA, one of the others, when he made this statement in the last few years of his life. He passed in 2008.
Mhm.
He told them at one of their conventions, he said, get away from thinking that Muslim means ethnicity. He said, every time you read the word Muslim in the Quran, he said, just think human. He said, because a Muslim is a true human. And I said, wow. And so when you look at it, at the interpretation, do not die except as a Muslim. You know, that's the way they interpret it. Look, do not die in any other form except the true human form. Don't die as a beast. Don't die as an animal. Don't die as a toad on a leaf. Don't die as vermin. Don't die in all of these. The human being can manifest his or her life in any other form that's in creation. We have that possibility. We can be any other thing we want because of this intellect. Don't die in those lesser states of energy and frequency. Don't do that.
How beautiful.
Graduate and evolve is all
Beautiful.
that is saying,
Beautiful.
isn't it? Yeah, alhamdulillah.
And that is so empowering, because it makes us go beyond age and space and
Oh
time.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So empowering, right?
Yes, it's not even third dimensional. It's beyond the third dimension. What we're talking about.
It keeps us going forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. See, we have to redefine these terms. And we can't let the spellcasters continue to define these important terms for us. Absolutely. Like human. What is a human? I asked a synagogue, Omar. This was about, I guess, almost 20 years ago now. I was in New York City. I was born and raised in New York. I'm living in North Carolina now. And I asked this synagogue full of Jews. I said, how many of you, and there were about maybe 80 people in the audience. I said, how many of you are college or university graduates? All of them raised their hands. They were all adults. I said, oh, good, good, good. I said, now, how many of you can give me the etymology of the word human? Nobody raised their hands. And they didn't want me to leave after my explanation of what a human actually is. And I explained it to them from the Hebrew, from the Adam.